The alchemists were interested in converting base metal into gold. That is propaganda of the church to discredit alchemy and to eliminate the study of nature. Alchemists are interested in nature as they found it, and they attempted to take nature apart to see what it's made of. And they described using words and language what they found. The area that I'm particularly interested in is the distillation aspect that alchemists utilized to define the natural world as they encountered it. Alchemists put everything into their stills to break them apart. One of the interesting things that, for me, as I read, was a gentleman by the name of Arnold de Villanova, who was a medical doctor, who was the physician to 4 different popes. So that this is an individual of high training. Arnold de Villanova establishes the curriculum of medicine that was taught for 500 years. Arnold chooses the textbooks, he chooses the subjects, and he receives the papal seal of approval because the church controlled the universities. And the church decided what was going to be taught and what wasn't. But Arnold took human blood and put it in the still to determine what blood was made of. Arnold develops the 4-humoral theory based upon distilled human blood. So that the first material that comes over from the still turned out to be clear water. What was referred to as the cold or clear phlegm. The second material was red, was the iron oxide from the heme molecule, the red or hot humor. The third material to come over was the yellow bile, referred to as the yellow or bile humor. The material left in the bottom of the still was the black humor, because they don't know what blood is. They're attempting, they have this lovely new scientific instrument, and they're trying to determine what it's made of, what its nature is. So that Arnold, being a very astute philosopher and scientist, wrote that the humors were actually described hundreds of years ago by this other person. And all I've done is proven that they exist, because no one wanted to do something new. So therefore you create somebody in the past who said it existed, and then all the text afterwards include that information. Arnold de Villanova was the gentleman who developed the theory of eternal life. And because he produced this book dealing with the eternal life, even though he was a Dominican, even though he was the professor and chair of the Department of Medicine at Montpellier, was arrested in Paris for heresy because the bishop in Paris disagreed with Arnold. And the Pope had to rescue him and pull him out of jail. The Pope that followed, the last Pope that Arnold was a physician to, asked for the books, demanded all of the texts dealing with eternal life that Arnold had developed, and Arnold died in 1311 without turning the books over. He completely disappears. But for all we know, Arnold is still with us. But he refused to relinquish to the church those texts. As a consequence, by 1320, he's excommunicated, his books are banned, and everything that he touched is now called heresy. So that alchemists who didn't conform to the requirements met a really harsh fate. Arnold was the individual who wrote that the Beguines in Flanders, those women who are actually learning how to read and write, Arnold supported them. He sent them money, he wrote texts, and for that the bishops in Paris hated him. So that learning is a deep, dark secret, even in the 14th century. Another alchemist that I frequently refer to is a gentleman by the name of Francis Bacon. Francis Bacon is a Franciscan monk, again, who teaches and writes on alchemy and is jailed for that. So that even in period, to do this work was risky. If you are going to do this work, there are two types of materials that you can start with. You can start with a modern still. The modern still is made of Pyrex glass. It is safe. You can do this type of distillation in a public venue with very little precaution. This glass is safety glass. It will not break. So that if you're going to do a school demo, a public demo, a library, anytime the public is around, this is the equipment that I would prefer that you use because it is safe. It will not give you the same results that the period glassware will give you, but it's safe. So that this is what the preference for public displays is. For personal work, I prefer to use the period glassware. It takes longer. The results are better. They are closer to period outcome. So that there's two types. Whenever you are doing distillation, you want to start with a boiling flask. The period texts refer to this device as a curcurbent. This is a curcurbent. It's a boiling flask. This is a boiling flask. This is a modern boiling flask. This bottom piece that is actually touching the burner. This glass can never come in direct contact with heat. Do not put a candle under this. Do not put a Bunsen burner under this. Do not put this on the range in your kitchen. This will burst. This will break. This will not. So that whenever you are distilling in period, you need to have some type of container to put this flask into. This particular pot, I will put water in to hold this, so that you will notice that I backfilled the pot with wool. This is bamboo wool. The period text says to backfill with either hay or with wool. Hay stinks. Sheep wool stinks. So that bamboo fiber is cheap. You can get it at Joann's. The objective of the wool is to prevent this from breaking. Whenever this is sitting here and rattling while it's boiling, if it strikes the clay, it's going to break. You're going to cry. So